Welcome to Brian's Action Figure Reviews. We're back with episode 4 of Wrestling Retro Chat. And today we're talking about the Hardys versus Christian and Edge, or Edge and Christian, whatever way you put it. So let's get to that right now. Welcome everyone to Brian's Action Figure Reviews. And we're back with episode, is this 4 now? Of Brian's Retro Wrestling Review, or whatever it is I call it. So episode 4, and today we'll be taking a look at Matt and Jeff Hardy versus Edge and Christian in a steel cage from Unforgiven. So let's start off by going to last week's comments, like last week. And there isn't many this week, but we'll go through anyway. So we have Ruth Hollins again. She said, watched it, laughing my ass off. I could do that fall without jumping over anything, in reference to your fall last week, Tubbs. So,
thanks,
my joke landed, unlike you. So, next is on YouTube, Dante's Double, who I think is David Markham, who we know, Tubbs.
Yes.
He said, such a shame how WWE talent is used lately. Much prefer AEW lately. Great vid, guys. So I think we were talking about WWE at present for a while last week, and he was just referring to that.
We were. Yes.
So, so for the shout out, Dave. And last comment of the week is from Let's Survive Paddy Plays, Paddy Murphy, who actually suggested this match about, was it the first week we were doing this? And we weren't reading the comments up until last week, so we only got to it now. So he said, about last week's episode, he said, thanks for the shout out, boys. Love this episode as always. Can't wait for the Unforgiven match. Thanks for taking the comment on board. I watched this match for the first time before checking this episode out, and oh my god, it was fantastic. He's talking about AJ and Joe and Daniels.
Yeah.
Because when I dropped off of wrestling, I didn't know much about AJ Styles or Samoa Joe, but everyone in this match blew me away. As a first time watch, I give it 10 out of 10. It was so much better paced than the match from last week. Keep up the amazing work, and you're stuck with me as your number one fanboy now. And Tubbs, Rich was spot on. Stop playing with your hair.
Hey, Rich. Look how long it's gone, Rich. Sort your hair before you come on, mate. But then I don't get to annoy you with the hair.
if anything, it's Rich should be playing with his hair, like so.
I think it's hair envy, man. That's what I think it is. You know.
And I just don't give a fuck. I just shaved the whole lot. So.
Yeah, you baldy bastard.
So this week's match, as I said already, is the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian. Thoughts beforehand? Rich, we'll start with this week.
Thoughts on the match? So this was kind of the second big match for them. Like those two tag teams come from, what was it, SummerSlam, the first TLC match? So
yeah.
So kind of high hopes on this match. I remember when I was younger, kind of excited for this kind of match. Especially the Hardy Boys. When you put the Hardy Boys into kind of any extreme kind of match, you kind of think to yourself you're going to get something decent. So, I mean, this type of match, when Mick Foley kind of announced that you're going to make it like a cage match, you're kind of like, cool, like I'm up for this. Kind of like, man, I was excited for this match when I was younger. Like, I mean, what are we talking, like almost 20 years, 19 years ago this match happened?
20 years ago, man.
20 years ago,
yeah. So like kind of excited for like this match, kind of like because I kind of think like these kind of tag teams, these guys put these guys made tag teams exciting again. Do you know what I mean? These were two of the teams that made tag team, like for WWE at least, like interesting and more exciting. So no, going into this when you have two tag teams going into a cage match, man, what are the things that could happen? You know what I mean? So I was extremely excited for this match.
To be honest, before I watched it, I know I've seen all the matches with them before, and the matches with the Dudley Boys as well, the TLC matches, and I'd forgotten, much like the last few weeks, I'd forgotten who won. So I was seriously excited for being won over again by this match. But I honestly had forgotten how vicious Edge and Christian were as heels, as shown in the pre-match promos. The whole taking the piss out of Matt Hardy was fucking amazing. Showing that video from when he was a kid.
Yeah.
So I had high hopes for the match. What about you, Tubbs? What was your thoughts beforehand?
Oh, before I watched the match, I mean, like as I said, I'm like Rich. I was a massive Hardy Boys fan. I loved Edge and Christian. I still think to this day Christian is one of the most underrated wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots. I can see by Brian's face he's not in agreement, but I genuinely do. I think Christian just should have got a better run as a single star, but we got what we got with him. But I think these two teams combined, they were lightning fuel back then. Like as Rich said, they took a division that had been just dying a death, and they propelled it. Like, do you know what I mean? They brought a match that was made famous on screen by Rez Ramon and Shawn Michaels, and they just took it to another level. And then they just kept going, and then their feud alone was massive. Do you know what I mean? They just had so much great chemistry. And I remember this match. I mean, I remember all their segment matches from back in the day fondly. Interesting to hear what you think of it now after seeing it after 20 years.
Yeah, so let's get into the actual match itself. When I put it on earlier, I was kind of shocked by the shortness of the runtime. Was it 17 minutes or something?
17:33, if I'm correct. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was in and around that.
When I looked at it first, I was expecting this to be like another 30 or even 35-minute match. And when I saw the time, I was like, oh, this mightn't be good because it's so short. But the first minute or two, I thought it took them a beat or two to get into the match. But after that, then once that happened, all of a sudden it was over. I was on the journey, for the match. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. The one thing I always like to see with cage matches, tag team cage matches, and I always wondered outside this matches, when you have the one guy escaping, and then automatically you have the 2-on-1 advantage. I've never really seen that before. Well, it's not shown often anyway in cage matches, and it was great to see how Edge and Christian bullied the crap out of Matt Hardy for the majority of the match and keeping Jeff Hardy out. That was a story in itself. What do you guys think?
Rich?
I've got to agree with you, Bri. I mean, like I said before, these two groups, it's going to be a great match. Same as you as well. I totally forgot everything about this match. Because see, when you talk like Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys, you always throw the Dudleys in there, and then you talk about the TLC match. That's the one that you always remember. So, kind of for me, I forgot quite a lot of these matches, and especially this one. I forgot it existed until it was requested that we did this. The same as you, Bri. Once again, when Edge pushed Jeff over the cage, I was a bit what are you doing, mate? You're fucking yourself over. But then realizing actually, because then it was it was interesting when you listen to the commentary. They're going, Jeff can't go back in. Jeff can't go back in. They're wait, can Jeff go back in? And it was I was getting myself confused with what couldn't happen in this match. It was good though. I mean, the second the Hardy Boys got into that ring, they just started brawling with each other, which was classic. I don't know, I have very mixed feelings towards this match after going back to what I remember as a teenager, and then going back and watching it as an adult. The kind of what I originally thought of this match when I was younger compared to now is completely different. We'll also get into that later on.
Fresh set of eyes though. What do you think, Tubbs?
I am going to be very, very open and honest about this. I have fonder memories of this match from being a kid to now.
Okay.
I'm going to explain why. I've seen a ton of the Hardy Boys matches. I've even seen the Hardy Boys in a cage match with the Dudleys. And I really, I know, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I did like the match, but I didn't love it. Because I just found there's lots of storytelling from the beginning of the bell to the end of the bell. But there's a lot of spots in it where I'm thinking, all right, like you mentioned about Joe Edge knocking Jeff out of the cage. For me, I was thinking that was the wrong Hardy to put out of the cage. Because you're in a cage match. Match should have went out. Match should have been the one trying to get back in. Because Jeff's the high flyer, the extremist that can take the bumps. And to be fair, cage matches are already an awkward beast of a match to work anyway. Because, you're so restricted. And when you take Jeff out of the match and play this cat and mouse game with him, I get it. It's the storytelling. The villains are keeping the guy out, but for me, it was like when I watched it, I was thinking Matt should have been the one trying to get back into that cage, and Jeff should have been the one taking the bumps. And then it got kind of a weird. There was a weird moment midway where Christian or Jeff gets the key and goes to open the gate or the door, which is another weird thing we get to in a while.
Yeah.
And then, obviously he gets taken out, and then Christian leaves the cage to get a chair to go back in and lock it. I'm going, I get it. You're playing the dastardly heels, but you were out, and you could have just thrown the chair in and let Edge wail on Matt and beat him because the 3 count was apparently in play.
But you see, Tubbs, sorry, just to cut you off.
What?
The rules of this specific cage match, though, was you had to climb over the top. The door rule wasn't in effect in this match at all. That's why Christian was allowed
I know.
Go on.
No, but with the count being in play as well, like they mentioned, it was either get the 3 count or climb over the cage. They'd knocked Jeff out already. Christian had knocked Jeff out with the gate. He climbed out to get a chair. He could have just thrown that back in and beat on Jeff outside and let Matt do it. That's heel storytelling. I get why they did it. I get why he went back in, but it really, for me, the only reason Christian went back into the cage was to set up for 2 spots later in the match. And the final spot of the match genuinely could have been pulled off anyway, even if Jeff never got back in.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of where it happened and how it happened. I won't go into it now because we'll talk about it later. But yeah, I just felt I had much fonder memories of it watching it 20 years ago. I really did. Watching it back as an adult, without even going into more, it's probably one of the weaker Hardy versus Edge and Christian matches I've seen. Which I didn't think it would be. I didn't think I'd watch it and kind of go, I've seen bigger and more spectacular matches from them. I've seen more laid out storytelling matches as well, and as I said, the storytelling wasn't the problem for me. It was just I found it got a little clunky in the middle, and the lead up to the end, it felt like it was just they did this and this to get to here when they didn't need to do this to get to here. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my opinion on it.
On the Matt and Jeff thing, I think, I'm straight out right, I'm going to say I disagree with you firstly, right?
Okay, that's fine.
Because it's not I think it does make a difference who's in and who's out. I think Matt is the better worker. He's a more solid worker, so the 2-on-1 thing with him works better. And you have Jeff Hardy then, who is the quicker high flyer, trying to get up the cage before they stop him. If you get me, that's my view on it anyway. But I
just think that I agree with what you're saying. Is Matt is the better in ring worker. Jeff is more of an aerialist and like a spot kind of guy. For that he's a more spectacular move guy. But I just find in a cage match you're already restricted with what you can do within the segment of the ring. So it just seemed like they threw Jeff out and had Jeff kind of climb around to try get back in so he could fall because he couldn't do it in over the top rope, or they couldn't put him through a table, or they couldn't, do ladder spots. So it just seemed like Jeff was just the guy that was there to fall off the cage for 10 minutes while Matt got his ass handed to him until they turned it around.
It did pay off in the end when eventually he got the ladder and Edge is trying to
Oh no,
he can't. He's like, you cunt.
It did very much, but I still, and it's, as I said, these are only personal opinions, man. Do you know what I mean? Watching matches, it doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean, I'm right going, this should. It's not. It personally, I just, after watching it back, I just felt watching it, I was going, all right, I think the wrong Hardy went out of that cage at the start. I think if Jeff was in there, they could have done, they could, like I have to admit, we'll get to it in a while, but there's one spot that happened in the cage with Matt that was fantastic. But we'll get to that in a while.
The thing is, I don't think it was who was the right and who was the wrong Hardy to do it. I think it was how quick in the match that Jeff went out. I think that's the problem.
Yes.
If it was like maybe an extra 5 minutes into the match, and then Jeff did that, and then you got pushed over, it wouldn't be so much an issue. But it's like when you think about that match, it actually seems like quite quickly that happens in the match. So I think that's the actual issue, is how quick they got rid of Jeff. And I do think it's down to like the typical type of style that Jeff is, the high flyer and that. You're going to tell me he's going to keep clamping that cage to jump off all the time. It's going to get boring. I mean, so when he does it, you want to make it look like you want to make it look fucking shit hot. So I guess that they're going, right, well, eliminate Jeff just now, and then obviously just him frustrated trying to get back in. Then we're all going to get what we want to see, is seeing Jeff Hardy jumping off of something really fucking high. But then how many times can one person do that in one fucking match? Do you know what I mean?
Impact.
Yeah. So like to me, it was just, I could argue both ways that it should have been Jeff, it should be Jeff, or it should have been Matt. But to me, I think the actual problem was the actual time that they put him out.
I'd agree with that.
There,
yeah, I think I'd agree with that, Rich. It was too early. The spot came too early. Now, I will bring something that I did hear now from the rumor mill of the internet. I don't know how real this is, but do you know when Jeff was hanging on and Edge hit him? Do you notice how Jeff's hand kind of went like that and then slipped? I've heard that apparently that wasn't supposed to happen so early. So you might actually be right. He might have fell out by accident too early, because it looks like he even tries to grab on and then loses his grip. But that's, as I said, that's kind of what you hear over years and kind of becomes kind of like legend about these matches and stuff. Is people going to go, I heard this. But I remember hearing that at some point that the plan wasn't for him to go out as early. But but I mean, I still agree with Rich in that it was way too early in the match. I think Jeff is, and it's not even just being a fan. It's, Jeff is the more over brother of the Hardy Boys.
Yeah,
or he was definitely back then. So the crowd are expecting Jeff to be kind of more involved. And the fact that he's outside, kind of just trying to climb up the cage and getting knocked back, and I mean, that's the storytelling aspect of it. Do you know what I mean? This is like, oh, will Jeff get back in? And as Brian pointed out, he gets the ladder, and then Edge can't get him. And then it's just like, oh, yes, he did it, But it's still that you have the guy that's more over from the team out on the floor, kind of swelling around, trying to get back in and stuff. And there was some great spots in this match. Don't get me wrong. There was some fantastic moments in this match. But I just found that the spot happened too early. There was a couple of things in and around that kind of I wasn't a fan of personally. Do you know what I mean? I would have probably, if it was me, I would have liked done a different way. But that's all. Like, I want it done this way. It's it's here nor there. We have the match we have, but it's just that thing of like certain things. As I said, when I watched it as a kid in 2020, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, Jeff is wearing green. He had a different attire. It was amazing. And can I just add one more thing? Yeah. How cool was it to hear Edge and Christian's old team song?
Oh, yeah.
Old school 5-minute pause team. I was like, yeah, baby. I fucking like that.
Edge move properly.
Yeah.
Okay, so worst spot of the match. I'll go with you first, Rich.
My worst spot is also my favourite.
I think I know what you're going with here.
My worst spot is the reason it's my worst is just this is once again almost back to what I said last week about camera angles. The whisper in the wind, first time you see it off the page.
I knew it when you said it.
And the only thing that actually landed on Matt and Edge were Jeff Hardy's forearms. Do you know what? And you know what? See if I'd seen that from an angle or from the side, that would have looked so much more brutal. And when you see him land, I was like, Jeff was actually the worst off from that. You know what I mean?
Even in the replay as well.
But yeah, like that was my worst part. But then to see that, like that's why that was so fucking awesome to actually see it off the top cage. That's why that's my I'm just gonna get over and done with. That's why it's my best and my worst spot of the whole match. It's just like the replays, just show me a different fucking angle so it looked better, but they didn't, and I was just like, it still looks bad.
Okay, Rich, you created a trend, so I'm going to do the same. I'm going to say worst and best as well. I'm going to agree with you. The worst spot of the night was that Whisper in the Wind. It looked fucking terrible. And the fact that they replayed it as well, and not from a different angle, as you said, confirmed it for me, because I even watched it again and I was like, no, he didn't connect, like. So, my favourite spot of the night was Christian when he was trying to climb back into the cage. And next thing, out of nowhere comes Lita, who I completely forgot. And yeah, stay still, my beating heart. And hits an amazing Hurricane Rana off the ladder. That was one of the best fucking parts of the match, I thought. And then she stayed down and absolutely sold the shit out of it and was battered on the ground. I really enjoyed that. What about you, Tubbs? Best and worst?
My worst spot in the match was actually the same as Rich's and yourself with the Jeff Hardy Whisper in the Wind, but for very different reasons. Like, we've talked about it before, Jeff Hardy does that spot, or has done that spot so many times, and he misses, like, or lands between every single time. It never looks like he actually kills them. But the reason it kind of grated on me a bit more was I found it seemed like they knocked him out of the cage early and did the whole cat and mouse thing around to get him, he could climb up and fall down just so he could get back up to hit that spot. Like, it was like an entire match just to hit that spot that didn't even really look like he had hit anyone. You know, it's a savage. Like, come here, aren't you? More about if I did that spot now, I'd die. You know, but do you know what I mean?
You've done enough.
Well, you've seen it over that gate.
I know, yeah. But
you'll need a ladder to climb over a gate. No one next.
But for me, that's why that's my least favorite part of this match, is because I genuinely felt like it was an entire match to build to that spot, and there was no massive payoff to it because, as Rich said, the camera angle was bad on it. He didn't really hit anyone, and as Rich even stated, he came off looking worse than in either of the two he hit. So that was my worst spot. My favorite spot in the match, believe it or not, was the Edge and Christian catching Matt Hardy on the top of the cage for the double suplex. The bounce off of that entire sequence, man, was just horrible. Like, they got him so angled up, and it was basically a perfect suplex, but it was just Matt Hardy normally doesn't take the massive bumps. Like, he does, let's be honest, that's me being silly. He's taken some horrendous bumps in his career. He has, busted himself up, but it's normally Jeff is the one you see taking those kind of bumps. And to see Matt kind of get taken up off of the top of the cage and down again, I thought it was fantastic. So yeah, it was me. Yeah, it was my favorite spot of the match.
So let's talk about the finish. What did you guys make of the finish? Tubbs, we'll go with this.
I liked and I disliked the finish. I'll tell you why. I liked the finish because it was a storytelling finish. You know, the Hardy Boys got the better of Edge and Christian, and Edge on top of that cage, and used their move at the time, the double concerto, to take out the heels and win the match. I thought that was a fantastic kind of payoff after Lita had come down and taken Christian out, and the boys were there, and it was just, it's a story. It was a storytelling ending. You could see it as, even with the promo that you mentioned at the start, where they were ripping the piss out and then used the chairs on him in the promo, and they kind of brought it back full circle and used them. Then the reason I wasn't a massive fan about it was because of the building of the entire match, where it goes back to the whole Jeff getting put out early, doing the spot monkey kind of stuff, the cat and mouse game to try and get back into the cage, and then gets on the cage and does that spot, the Whisper in the Wind, to get back in the cage, just to get to that ending. When I was saying earlier, that ending could have been done even if Jeff never got back in the cage. Yeah. So it was kind of like they were kind of going, here, we get him back in here, drop him in the cage, then Christian's out, then we're back in, the two of them will climb up and do the move. Even so, Jeff never really needed to get back in that cage for that ending to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just seemed like they went an entire way around to get here.
Basically, for you on a whole, the storytelling of the match didn't work.
No, it's not even the fact that it didn't work. I just found like the storytelling was there, man. Like, do you see it in the promos with like as I said, I mentioned it there with the chairs. You know, I mean, that they hit him with the chairs, took him out in the promo, the build to the match, and and they were the dastardly heels trying to, even bits like I didn't like when Jeff got knocked out and then Christian went out through the gate. It still worked because they were still being the dastardly heels beating up on the face in the ring. That was all there. The storytelling was there. I just felt that it's kind of like watching a movie that's a half an hour too long. You're kind of going, oh man, if they had just cut 10, 15
Fair.
minutes off of that movie, it would have been a better movie.
Like Man of Steel.
Yes.
Rich,
I just feel
Tubbs loves Man of Steel, and we always rip the piss out of him for it.
Oh my god, I love that movie so much. I fucking love it, Paddy Murphy. But I just feel it's that same scenario. If they hadn't have gone like all the way around to get Jeff back in the cage just for that spot to go to the ending, it just felt like. And even though the match was short enough as it was, I mean, you could have cut that entire sequence out or never had Jeff leave the cage to begin with, and you still would have got to that same ending. There was a lot of ways they could have went. I just felt they went a long way to get there. But who the fuck am I, right? Man.
What do you think, Rich?
To be honest, like, it didn't faze me at all. Just listening to Tubbs, and I was just trying to think back to the finish, and I couldn't actually remember there for a second, and I was just thinking to myself, you know what? That just sums it up. The finish on it was shit. Because I rewatched it today, and I already forgot about it. Does that not just sum up?
That's a new record, folks.
But does that not just sum up on that? It's basically saying that clearly the finish was actually that disappointing to it. So yeah, that's my take on the finish of it. Must have been shit because I already forgot about it.
For me, like, I don't know whether I can't remember what happened after this match, feud wise, or was this, but it just seemed like a feud ending finish.
So it continues after this though. There's like a feud.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the finish, but like I think the match it just went by so fast. It's hard to fucking, even as you were saying, it's hard to remember it all in great detail, even though I watched it about 2 or 3 hours ago. But I actually did like the finish, and Edge falling off the cage was mad, like just fucking splatting on the ground. I enjoyed that, but yeah, I think it was. I agree with you, Tubbs, in a bit. It was 2-1 for too long. Like it showed them, Edge and Christian, to be awfully weak, that they couldn't put away Matt Hardy on their own for what seemed like 10 minutes. Because I think it was the 6th minute that Jeff Hardy got knocked out. So that's 11 minutes they had to beat.
It was. Oh, Jeff Hardy, is it?
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. I think it was earlier than that, dude.
I think it was, but we can check it later anyway. But yeah. But even still, 10 minutes should have been enough, especially when Christian brought the second chair into the ring to finish him off. And for them to lose from that position, it paints them kind of weakly, like. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the finish anyway.
I just paint one more picture for you, right? And this goes back to what Rich was. It's like painting. I love it. It's fucking delightful. But
paint like a French girl.
This goes back to what Rich was saying about the ending, right? I'll put it to you this way. We watched an entire triple threat match last week. And that was, I mean, spot after spot after spot. It was hard to catch everything that was going on.
Yeah.
But you remembered 80% of what happened in that match on our watch and the ending perfectly. Because we discussed the ending. This, it was shorter than that match. And the ending was kind of, it just goes to show, you can do a match with more than 2 characters. And you can have it be high paced and crazy spots, and you can have it just be there. It's just, I find with this is, and it is that thing. I mean, for me watching it personally, as I said, these are all just opinions, but it is that thing of like, when you put a cage in there, okay, you've already restricted what these guys can do. And then you take one of the highest flyers out of the entire 4 that takes a lot of extreme moves and can do a lot of crazy stuff that, the crowd are used to seeing it. You take him out early to kind of run this story arc to get him back in. And it just, I don't know, it just doesn't work. I mean, I've seen the Dudley Boys versus the Hardy Boys, and it's such a good match. I've seen all the TLC matches. You can quote the WrestleMania matches, the No Mercy matches, the SummerSlam ones. I mean, I know they're different matches, but they're iconic for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think what Rich mentioned a while ago is, I forgot this match was there. I think that's the reason, because I think this match does get lost in the shuffle of the history of the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys, and that entire thing. I think this is the match that got lost in the shuffle. Maybe because, as I said, it just isn't. It isn't their best match.
No,
you've seen a lot better from these two teams, and that's not their fault. It's probably just, on that given night, the story didn't go together. And I mean, I could be completely wrong, because there could be 100 people outside of this video watching or whatever that would be like, you're fucking talking out your arse stubs. But as I said, it's all opinion based, and we look at it from a certain point of view, and you do look at it that way, and you see it 20 years on, and it just doesn't hit home like it used to.
Yeah.
You know?
So to round us off tonight, let's get your verdicts. I'll go your scores. Rich?
First off, I already feel like this is going to be the lowest scored
Been thinking
match.
that myself.
Yeah. But what I just want to say before I score out, this just proves on something we spoke off the record, I think it was last week. It just proves that even though you're a great wrestler, and obviously these guys were great, but they weren't at their peak yet, it just shows you can still have a shit match. Do you know what I mean? Like, people always think just because you're great wrestlers, always going to have great matches. And it just shows you just because you're that great, and even if you're facing somebody great, you can still have a shit match. And this is the match that we were kind of looking for, boys, in all fairness.
Yeah. Thanks, Paddy Murphy.
Actually, I want to know why he picked this match. So if you can leave that on the comments, that'd be quite interesting. Why he chose this one. But I'm going to give it an all-round 5. Yep, went that low, boys.
Hobbs?
I'm going to give it a 7, because it did have a lot of story beats and a lot of like good sections in it and stuff, a lot of bumps I enjoyed. But as I said, I just feel like I lost the 3 points in it, because I just felt it went the long way around when it could have got there earlier, and there was a lot of clunkiness in the middle that I felt could have been left out, and it just, I don't know, there was just, as I said, it doesn't hit home as one of my favorite Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian matches. And even at 7, I think I'm being generous on this one. But
yeah, you're being very generous, mate. At 7, fuck.
No, actually, no, I can't take it back. No, I grade it.
Well, I'm going to be even a little bit more generous, because I enjoyed it. It's one of them, like, I know there's a lot of problems with it, but this is one of the matches I enjoyed the most rewatching it. So it kind of caught me off guard that I enjoyed it. But anyway, I'm going to say a 7.5. There is a hell of a lot of problems with this match, but at the same time, I was pretty tired. I couldn't sleep last night, and I wasn't looking forward to watching this match. But when I watched it, I was like, I really got into it, and I really enjoyed it. So, but as I said, there's a shitload of problems with it. So that's why I only scored a 7.5. And that will give us a grand total of 19.5. And our worst match so far.
Can I just add one more thing, Brian?
Of course you can.
On this show, you don't have to feel bad for liking something we don't like, my friend.
Of course. That's why we're here.
There you go. It's all opinion based, my babies. Babies?
So,
what? He said it, not me. This guy.
Super Potato out.
Fuck.
See, the thing is, I wouldn't actually, to me, I wouldn't exactly say it was like a shit match. For me, it's just
no.
It's not that it's shit. It's just, for me, like, it just wasn't exciting enough. Where the guys in that cage, for what the potential that they could do, from what you've seen them already do, it just wasn't exciting. So when you put all that together, and you expect more, and then that's what you get. That's where I give it a 5, being like, do you know what? Like, this could have been so much better, but you just didn't execute it that night. Fair enough, for whatever reasons. Like, it wasn't actually. We've all watched so much more matches that are a lot more shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, we could make a whole episode just listing like so many of them. Like, the matches that shit, just like. You guys, you must admit yourself, these guys could have done a lot better. This match should have been so much better than this. And you're like, this is what I got. You know what I mean? And you buy something, you're like, And is this the shit I got? Like, fuck this kind of thing.
And I agree with you, Rich, because I think it is that thing of like, when you were saying it's like, we could have got a much better match, and we have got much better matches. I think that's why I looked at this and was kind of going, I've seen this match and this match and this match, and they all hit where they needed to hit.
That's the beauty as well. Like, not every match we watch has to be a classic.
No,
like,
God,
it's
no.
fun. It's fun to rip apart matches as well. As I'm sure we'll find out further down the line when we get worse matches than this.
Oh,
one.
yeah. And I mean, it goes back to what Rich was saying as well about, just because, you have like 4 talented guys in the ring doesn't always mean it's going to come together, And I think this was the one. But I mean, as I said, it goes back to the beast of the cage, man. You look at all cage matches, and some of them are good, but there's a lot more bad than good when it comes to cage matches, because they're hard to do. They're restricted matches. You have to think outside the box, and sometimes when you think too far outside the box, you end up going like around in a circle to get to the middle. You know what I mean?
There's no circles in the box, Tubbs. But anyway, that's it for this week. Thanks, guys, for coming on.
Right.
This has been Brian's Action Figure Reviews. This has been Retro Wrestle Watch. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with a brand new match. See you later, guys. So that was our chat about the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian. Did you like it? Did you agree with what we said? Have you got a suggestion for next week? Let us know. We'd love to hear more suggestions for next week. But for now, the plan for next week is Kenny Omega versus Okada. Ooh, that's a big one. See you next week, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and do all those things. Bye!